Armed with the strength of revenge and the blades of chaos, Kratos slayed Ares and claimed his rightful place as the god of war.
We had a character that the history of this character is so well known by people that we wanted to expand him, show a different side. It's a reimagining, right?
Brutal, nasty, violent, antisocial, pissed off, angry, fuck you. That was my direction to Charlie. I just said, come into work and get angry and see what happens.
You really got to shake it up.
I know you're a dad and you're trying to get into a father-son dynamic here. Are you trying to make us cry with God of War?
You know, something that humanizes him. And so that was, we tried the whole baby idea, kind of like the lone wolf and cub, and figured, okay, we can't do a baby because we can't have a baby getting injured or anything like that. So,
can the kid get killed via gameplay?
No.
But if he did, like, Kratos is kind of used to that by now.
Yes.
Slow down, boy. I will have my revenge! Wait. Do it! Relax. Do not think of it as an animal. It is simply a target. Clear your mind. Exhale and release.
He's all about destroying anything that gets in his path, and he won't stop.
The idea of rooting for him, the idea of feeling bad for him, is unusual.
And to see, you know, this character go through struggles and trying to, you know.
Yeah, that's the neat thing about his struggles are human struggles.
Right, yeah.
But so when I looked at this script, and I think one of the first days that we met, one of the first things I said was, like, this is like a script. It's not a game script.
Right.
It's a script.
He's been stripped of everything. His mother's dead, his family's dead by his own hands, and he's just seething with anger and guilt and all of that.
This little sequence right here gives me chills, even watching it again. Let's just take a second and acknowledge it. I mean, that's just awesome. That's just so awesome.
Finish what you started.
I can't.
At the end of the day, if somebody fucks with me, I come to this at home, I just sit down, I beat the shit out of people, and they're like screaming blood everywhere, and I feel good.
That's fantastic. This guy is, you know, the epitome of the God of War.
People who play the game, they like being Kratos. You know, they like having that power. They like wielding that power. I, as a voiceover actor, I like wielding that power.
The description for Kratos was just, we want him to be badass. And that was the direct quote from Dave.
You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
We're going with a whole new way of controlling the game. You know, we are shifting everything to a whole new set of buttons and a whole new way of interacting with the controller. And I think if we had something too familiar, you would start going to the old standby, square, square, triangle, and why doesn't that work?
Mechanically, God of War feels much more modern than its predecessors, opting for a minimal HUD instead of flashing combo numbers on screen, and combat that's more reminiscent of Dark Souls than old God of War.
Full-blown shield, a little dab of Dark Souls there.
Square, square, triangle, and why doesn't that work? Allowing you to switch mid-combo, you know, so it really has that, you know, square, square with the chains, quickly switch on R2 to the hammer, hit him, launch him up with a hammer, switch back over to the bow, fire it at him. You know, I mean, it really opens up these possibilities.
The camera, I mean, there were a lot of issues with that decision that Corey was steadfast on and believing in to help define where we're going with the new Norse God of War.
How do we continue to evolve Kratos without breaking him? You know, how do we give him new moves? When you pick up the controller, he feels like Kratos. And everything that we do, you know, it's you know, the challenge is making sure that we maintain that integrity.
This like Home Depot axe that he was just hacking everybody with, because its first conception, like the axe didn't have anything very special about it. So it took a while for us to do the first prototype where we actually had him throwing it. So eventually one of our designers came up with like the idea of like, well, what if we just let him recall the axe similar to how Thor recalls his hammer? You know, it's a very Norse thing.
When I first started here, Kratos had the chain blades. The main thing, like the theory behind all of it, was to maintain the fluidity of the change and the fact that there was weight at the end of them, but not cripple the player.
It's a little bit slower than previous God of War games. Basically now, the player, we expect him to kind of think about his surroundings a little bit more. You do have to watch your backside a little bit. Can't see what's back there. Got to depend on the indicators for that.
Combat will always be kind of fast and fluid.
What about blades? Are we going to be throwing guys up in the air, chains, or what can we expect?
Oh, we're not even talking about that stuff now.
Okay.
We're talking about this.
All of those things to help sell his brutality and the gore that's in the game. We wanted to take the visceral, brutal feeling of Kratos and really show what's going to happen throughout this game of destroying all the gods.
Okay, you know, even though the camera is close and you can't see everything around you, the game somehow still works. Somehow. It's because you have your son out there that's also distracting enemies and pulling aggro off of you. You have this weapon that you can use to pin down enemy, and you could turn around and not even look at him anymore because he's pinned down in the distance.
That was the DMC guy saying no Western developer will create a great action adventure game.
I don't think our fighting system's as good as Devil May Cry.
And I
For
think
the
in
young
this
team
one,
that we were.
yeah, it's more proving we still got it, right? We can still do this.
I wouldn't say God of War kind of came anywhere close to what they were doing, but this, on the other hand, does.
Okay.
This comes way closer to being like something that they could give to a Japanese developer and say, this is our take on what you're doing, because it has some of the fluidity of Japanese action games.
The original Devil May Cry, I think, has inspired God of War a lot. But I think what God of War's done is taking all of those and put its own spin on those things, taking those ideas and bring them into a different direction.
You know, casual gamers can have a lot of fun with this game, and the hardcore guys can too, because it's really deep. So, you know, expect us to follow that same kind of philosophy.
Okay. And it's a little bit reminiscent of the classic games, just with more impact. You can see juggling the enemy, hammering him into the ground.
The head looks really chunky.
Oh, yeah.
Accuracy over speed. Nice shot.
Honestly, you know, the audiences are more adept at games. They've played a lot more games. The game industry has progressed and matured. So people are looking for inherently a greater depth.
I want this game to make players just go nuts and feel that sense of anger and chaos.
We had the Telltale guys over here earlier. I love what David Cage is after with Detroit Become Human. There is some really interesting storytelling happening in games right now. God of War is a big part of that conversation. That's exciting.
That's pretty awesome.
I love to write dialogue. Maybe we could try something new. A video game with lots of dialogue. I'm sure it would sell like a bomb.
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
That's just awesome. That's just so awesome.